All right, episode 9. I'm very excited to introduce this episode with Chris Koch. I've wanted to have Chris on for quite some time. We took him e-foiling about a year and a half ago now, I guess. And ever since I met him, I followed him and I just thought he's such an inspirational individual. Chris was born without any arms and legs. And let me tell you, he does more in life than 90% of the humans that I know. So it's something that he does not define himself by, not let him slow him down. And what he's devoted his life to doing is incredible. He's a motivational speaker. So he chats with corporations and high schools and elementary schools alike, and brings his message to the masses. And he has created a brand that's called If I Can, of course, with the message behind it that if he can do it, if he can do these things like scaling buildings, e-foiling, snowboarding, traveling the world, well, of course, anybody can do it. The only limitations that we experience in the human experience is in our minds and not due to physical challenges or limitations. So him and I get the opportunity to go through a lot of this, talk about his journey and, his relationship with his family, his amazing nieces, and his big life goals. And so I really loved having the opportunity to chat with Chris, and I look forward to bringing it to everybody. So tune into this episode and get inspired by Mr. Chris Koch. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Conscious Creator Podcast. I have my good friend with me today, Chris Koch. How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Good, man. Good. So good to have you in here. Honestly, I've been really, really excited for this episode. And for those who aren't watching, this is our first ever in-person episode. So Chris is actually sitting right beside me today instead of zooming in or anything like that. So it's pretty awesome. Before we dive into the episode, as we do begin every episode, we're just going to do 3 breaths together to ground ourselves. So anybody listening that's not driving, please join us. You can shut down your eyes for a moment, and we'll just take 3 nice calming breaths together to arrive in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today, Chris. Really appreciate it. And it's epic to have you in studio. I met Chris, how long ago was that now?
First started chatting back and forth on social media kind of early summer of last year. And then
this year
it was
like
ago. Late summer, early fall.
That was in the fall. That's right.
It was, because it was chilly out.
Yeah, so we got Chris out e-foiling. And pretty epic. So Chris was born with, I don't know if there's a condition or if it's more just...
I born missing both arms, both legs.
But
there's no real fancy terminology for it. At least none that I'm aware of.
Yeah, no worries. But so for those that are just listening in, when we took him e-foiling, we sent him a message, we had some back and forth, and of course, Chris didn't hesitate. And so we knew kind of right away, like, holy shit, okay, he didn't even, he jumped at it right away, which is pretty impressive. So when we got down to the docks, what I loved and learned so much, of course, was, as I'm sure many other people do for the first time getting to know you, they think, oh, Chris is maybe going to need some help, is this and that. And our big discussion beforehand was like, how are we going to get Chris to operate the remote? Maybe we should do it for him. Boy, did we learn when we met Chris how much we were idiots, and we should have let him take the reins, because Chris said, no, absolutely not. Like, I want to operate it, and away we go. And so we learned how self-sufficient you were right from then, and how, honestly, you did better than most people do for their first time, which was fucking epic. All we did was we had, I think I taped the remote to your arm.
Yeah, we just took some hockey stick tape.
Yeah.
Doesn't pull the hairs on the arms like duct tape or something does.
And then you rocked and rolled from there. And no joke, you were up, I don't know what, you had three tries and then you were up pretty much. And I can tell you, I've taught, I don't know, 60, 70 people. You're in the probably the top 3 of getting going that quick. So it was amazing to learn that fast. How truly able-bodied you are, and that you don't look at any limitations whatsoever. And is from that point that of course I was like, man, I got to follow this guy and check him out. And hella inspirational, and we just had a blast out there. And so ever since, I've wanted to have some more chats and get to know you better. So that's where this day all comes down to. And so I appreciate you lending the time.
No, it was an awesome day. I wish it would have been a little bit warmer so we could have kept going longer, but I was getting pretty cold.
That's fair.
But no, it was pretty cool to be able to get up on the board or on the e-foil as quickly and successfully as I was.
Yeah. And
I mean, I'd wake surfed before, so I had an idea of how it was going to go to a certain extent. And low center of gravity helps me out as well.
Fair.
And I guess for those who are listening and are maybe needing a visual to exactly how I look, my arms are about elbow length, or my stumps or whatever. So we taped the remote onto the right arm, and then I was able to operate it with the left side. Yeah. And that was one of the things where I kind of was on the same train of thought as you, was having somebody else run it. Yeah. Because I didn't know, like, not having, your 2 arms kind of free off to the side for balance, if that would affect it. But then as we got talking more, I was realizing, okay, I think I need to be able to control my own speed, because you're not going to be able to anticipate when I'm going to be leaning forward. Totally. Or I'm not going to be able to anticipate when you're going to speed it up a little bit and I need to be leaning forward. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then I guess as far as legs are concerned, I have a partial leg on the right side that goes like maybe knee length. But that gives them, I don't know if you're going to have pictures or whatever that they could look at.
Totally. You might throw some in, but no, that's
gives them a visual.
That's great. And it's funny, actually. So I didn't really think about it too much that day. But then obviously prior to today, I watched some of your other videos and stuff and read a little bit more on your story. And yeah, I've seen that you've wake surfed. You've done other water sports, you've snowboarded. But the big thing that got me about the wake surfing and the water sports piece is, I watched something on you where you're like, no, I can't swim. I can't swim for shit. And if I fall, I sink faster than a rock. And I just didn't really think about that piece. Obviously, when we foiled, Taylor helped you. But I didn't think about that aspect. And even when, with your trip to Brazil, and we can get more about that, but I was looking at you in the boat in the water, which I'm sure are probably not too friendly waters if you ever did fall in. Yeah. But that's incredible. You know what I mean? The courage to do that shit, like just dive in. No, I can't swim if I fall. Sure, I've got a life jacket on, but there's it's still, you think, if you ever slipped out of that, but there's absolutely no fear in you at any stage of that, which I just found amazing. Amazing.
I probably should have a little bit more fear than I do, but fair. I don't know. I'm a firm believer of I'm way more afraid of regret than failure. Yeah. And I think failure is a fear-based thing. So I just kick that fear out of the way and just get out there and do.
Totally. No, it's amazing. And I want to share with you a little piece where you really inspired me too. Again, and which just kind of, we had done our e-foiling and it's just, God, that was an amazing individual. But then I just kind of said, I'll follow you, but didn't really, continue to do so too closely. And then I think it might have been later that fall, actually, that, that skyscraper fundraiser, like the scale the side of the building one. What was that called again?
Yeah, that was for Easter Seals.
For Easter Seals, thank you. So I wanted to do that with my team, my staff down at the docks. And I'll share a little bit of my story. So I was actually diagnosed with Lyme disease. I got bit by a tick a year around that time, and I didn't really know what was going on. But a part of my challenge was it attacked my joints. And my hands were I couldn't really straighten them much more than that. Right. And they hurt to grab things. And so I backed out of that because of that. Because I told myself I had these limitations where I was like, oh, if my hands lets go, I slipped, like that could be really dangerous. And then lo and behold, I see you scaling a goddamn building. And I was just like, wow, okay. You were, I used that as an excuse when, you don't even have the hands to do that. And you smoked my ass all day long in doing it and did it with a smile on your face and probably no concern. So I love that zest that you bring to life, you know what I mean, in that manner. And that truly brought it to me to say, smarten up. You can't tell yourself these limitations because we are our biggest enemy in that space.
No, for sure. And I've for the most part, I've always been just figure it out. Let's just do.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. But there was the one big thing that I always held myself back from was travel. And I traveled a lot, but they were very easy trips, a week and a half in London, staying with a friend.
Yes.
Or
picking you up at the airport and
that kind of stuff. But, just going and backpacking and taking off, having no plans whatsoever, just being like, I wind up where I wind up. I always wanted to travel in that capacity. I had a couple of really good friends that traveled like that. And I leaned on the fact that I still am missing arms and legs.
Yeah.
That was my crutch or my excuse or my escape plan. And it was just, well, what if I run into these issues? What if I run into those issues? And it was kind of realizing that, well, you can run into those issues right here at home. So
Absolutely.
Might as well just go and do it. And I, once I started, I went on a 3-month backpack trip through Europe and I had no plans, no agenda. I was like, all I knew is I had to be in Basel, Switzerland for Christmas and up on the top of a mountain for a friend's wedding in Grindelwald for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And those were the only 2 things that I had planned. And the trip went amazing. And it just kind of opened up the door for everything.
Yeah.
And, speaking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it
awesome.
was just that proverbial kick in the ass that I needed to give myself.
Yeah.
To essentially be like, you know what, just fuck it. All those things that you
overthought,
talk about doing, dream about doing, think about doing, but you put them on the back burner and you make excuses of time, money, situation, family, what other people's perceptions of you.
Totally.
That's, you're shirking your responsibilities or whatever.
Yeah.
And just saying, no, I'm just going.
Yeah. And what age was that around?
I was late 20s, early 30s, I want to say.
Yeah. And now you're 28 countries, 6 of 7 continents.
32 countries, 32. 6 of the 7 continents. Antarctica is the only one. Africa is...
So when are we going? When are we going to Antarctica?
I wanted to go down to Argentina this winter, but I think I have another trip kind of on the go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a good buddy who's traveled all 198 countries. And he said,
cool.
Sometimes you can just go down and because people have to book that, that boat across the Drake Passage or that plane ride so far in advance.
Yeah.
You have people that, we booked a year and a half ago thinking we were going to be able to do it. And now we can't. So you can get in on a last minute cancellation. So if you're okay with just rolling like that, it's doable without having to book 2 years in advance. So, I'll get her. Yeah. I'll get her across. Antarctica, I will get crossed off the list.
Yeah.
All 198 countries. I mean,
that's a feat. But hey,
I sure would mind trying.
Totally, I'm there with you, and it's we do tell ourselves those excuses because of course COVID slowed things down the last couple of years, and anytime you have kiddos, you can use those excuses too. But they're exactly that. They're still excuses.
Yep.
Right, and I'll tell my wife and I certainly live our lives as well. I remember everybody, you won't be able to do this, that, and the other. And we're like, of course you will. It's just a little more complicated. Yeah. But, the influence you get to have on your kids is incredible.
Yeah. I met a couple different families when I was in Southeast Asia with another friend who there was one couple that had 3 kids, another couple that had 4 kids.
Yeah.
And they were,
amazing.
Pretty young, like elementary, maybe early into junior high age.
Yeah.
And they were traveling for like months on end.
And they're going to learn way more from that than they are from any book. I'll tell you that.
100%.
Right? That life experience, that Things are going to go wrong. You got to learn patience. You know, there's
Yep.
going to be, well, it's just the unpredictability of it all. That's amazing for them.
And the one family I thought was pretty neat. The kids had X pairs of pants, X shirts, and then obviously socks and underwear.
Yeah.
And they could get a new shirt,
Yeah.
or a new pair of shorts, or a new pair of pants if they wanted.
Yeah.
But they had to take one of those items out.
Yeah.
And they had to decide, well, is that your favorite shirt or not? Do you really want that new shirt? So they had to learn the value of, just because you want something doesn't mean you get it.
Totally.
And then I think also too, they're like, well, you got to find somebody who you can give that shirt to, because you're traveling around the country.
Oh, that's wicked. People can't just buy new shirts.
Yeah.
The locals. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool lesson.
I love
that those kids were learning at a pretty young age.
It's important, right? Those are the little things that we can take the opportunity for teaching. Since we try to do it with our kids, it's toys are ridiculous. They have a birthday party, and I swear next one we're doing no toys, because it's just gotten absurd. And and we try to teach them, when they're not, they're throwing them around or this, that, and understand, like, people don't have clean water or a meal on the table, and you guys are throwing your toys and whining about it, and we're at least grounded in that. So it's frustrating, but of course we got to also learn that we're dealing with minds that are not quite as developed as ours.
100%.
It's finding that those areas that you can relate, right, which are neat little trade-offs like those parents put in place.
And it's partially self-serving, but I've also, with my nephews and nieces, tried to buy them for their birthdays or Christmases or whatever experiences rather than things.
Totally. Yeah.
So all the kids, when they've turned 5, I took them on a trip to Vancouver.
Yes.
It was just
I saw one of them recently.
It was a quick flight from Calgary to where they're at, to Vancouver. If something went south, it was easy to get back.
Yeah.
But it was still a plane ride, and some were a little bit different. And, the whole trip was, they get to pick what they want to do.
Cool.
I kind of lay out the options.
Yeah.
But they had to pack their own bag. They had to carry their own bag.
Yes.
When we got on the plane, or when we checked into the hotel or whatever, they had to do the, ask all the questions.
I love that.
And, go to a restaurant. You have to go to the bathroom. Okay, well, you ask the server where the bathroom is. Or you find where it is, to teach them how to be independent travelers.
Totally.
So, I mean, for myself, I love traveling, so I want to create little travelers so I can bring them along with me.
Absolutely.
But also, too, having no arms, no legs, I can't do everything for them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to do everything for them. So to be able to have them pulling their own weight was
it'd be
perfect,
neat too.
So.
Like, just as you say, if you bring them to speaking engagements and stuff as they get a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
And they can watch Uncle Chris do his thing and be proud, right?
Yeah. So it's fun. I love it.
That's wicked. I love that. Let's wind back a little bit, because where do you think growing up this kind of outlook was instilled in you, right? Because I'm sure there's others out there that don't have the same perspective, that it's impressive, right? And so, did it happen from square one, or was it something that evolved because of a specific someone, or was it multiple people?
I'm gonna say there's numerous factors, variables that created this whole thing, for a lack of a more eloquent way to put it. I always say that day one, the day I was born, my grandma's reaction hearing that I was born missing arms and legs was that my dad never finished anything he started. And that was, on the surface, it just seems like a funny little, good one-liner by grandma, nice one. But when you really dissect it, it set the tone. It wasn't, oh my goodness, this is horrible, what a tragedy. It was, all right, it is what it is. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to figure this out. Yeah. And we're going to have some good laughs along the way. And that's one of my mottos. If you can't laugh at life, what can you laugh at? Yeah. You're going to have challenging days. You're going to have shit days. You're going to have days where it's just an absolute train wreck. Yep. And you can let it get to you. You can let it, destroy you. Yeah. Or you can dig in there and try and find some funny twist that you could put on it. Yeah. Laugh it off. It doesn't make it all go away, but it gives you some semblance of having a bit of control over what's going on.
Totally.
But also, blue collar. My mom, my mom's family, farmed. I grew up helping out on the farm.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like you want to do something, get up off your ass
farm.
And go do it.
Yeah.
And that part too. Growing up in a small town, 1,500 people in Nanton, hour south of Calgary.
Yeah.
Everybody knew me. Everybody knew what I could and what I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Probably most important, what I could do. So if I did try to, play the angle, they're like, no, get off your ass. Don't even try and do that. And mom and dad said when I was young, they wanted to help me out. And they said it was tough to see me struggling. Yeah. Like any parent. Yeah. But they realized that they needed to resist that urge to jump in and make it easier, take the obstacles and the hurdles out of the way. Yeah. Because if they would have coddled me, babied me, and pandered to me, it would have robbed me of the opportunity to develop things like resilience, perseverance, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I've had a lot of people come to me after a presentation and said, one of the most powerful things you said in your whole presentation was the best thing that you can do for your kids is less. Totally. Yeah. So, and that's, whether you're raising a kid who has 10 fingers and 10 toes or otherwise, and anybody, in the workforce, as an employer with your employees, you step back and let your employees, give them the opportunity to prove themselves and shine. Yeah. More often than not, they will. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I know that you did some work too with the war amps and stuff like that. And so you had every opportunity to have, well, you even rocked for a little while. You had the prosthetic legs and arms. Yeah. So what I found, really special, and same with even your apartment now, like, no, I don't really want things adjusted to me. Right. And so, maybe tell me a little bit about that. Like, of course I'm sure gave you those, right, to leverage if you wanted, and even golfed when you were a kid, and but they weren't for you. Yeah, the prosthetics, both arms and legs, they tried to get me started with them at a very young age, just so I was familiar with it. They pushed pretty hard, and I don't mean they as in the war amps. I think it was, the Children's Hospital in Calgary, and a lot of it was like, wow, Chris, this will really make life easier for Chris, and in some respects, it did. But when you're dealing with 4 prosthetic limbs, it's just a lot of, I can imagine, apparatuses to maneuver. Yeah. And I've found later in life that no prosthetics at all is actually what makes life a lot more easier for me. Is that the case for every single kid who's missing both arms and both legs, or just a leg or just an arm? Yeah. No, but it worked. It worked well for me. And I mean, the fact that I had all those resources available to me, definitely made it a lot easier. Yeah. Because when you're trying to forging forward in life, when you have kind of a fallback plan or people to help you, or when you do fall, that makes it a lot easier to go out and take those risks and attack those challenges. Yeah. It's a lot easier to be afraid to fail. When you have, that safety net behind you or below you. Yeah. But, I mean, I've found if I have all these, if I have all this technology and all these apparatuses and special tools to do very specific tasks. Yeah. Well, I travel all the time, and when I do travel, I travel by myself. There's not somebody coming along with me, helping me out, carrying bags. There'd be all that stuff that I have to pack along with me. Totally. So if I can be adaptable to the world, then it just makes it a lot easier. I don't have to have. I love that, because there's messaging within that, right? It's people were telling you what's easier for you. Who the hell's to tell you what's easier for you? Yeah. Right? They were telling it's society's version of what was easier for you. Right. Whereas only you can really say, well, no, it's not. Yeah. I'll figure it out. And you've done it, and you've done it with grace, and you've done it probably better than you would have with those assisting pieces. Right. So no, and I don't regret them. I don't regret or have any animosity towards them, trying to get me with the arms and legs. Yeah. I was able to find out for myself, these things don't work for me. They might work for somebody else, but for me personally, it doesn't work. And then a lot of people say, well, with the technology that's advanced so far, yeah, there's been a lot of advancements in technology, but I'm used to this.
Yeah.
Just like you're used to the body that you were born with. Yeah. I'm used to the body that I was born with.
Totally.
I figured it out.
Yeah.
It's a different story for somebody who's lost a limb or limbs later in life.
Yeah.
On my shitty days, I can think, oh, it'd be so much easier if I had arms and legs. I don't have a baseline to compare that to.
Totally.
Whereas somebody who lost a limb or limbs in an accident or whatever,
they've had that
can literally think back
before.
to say, I remember when life was a whole lot easier when I had more arms and legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm fortunate that I don't have that, psychological
that reference point
part to overcome, aspect to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember hearing that one of your talks and I was like, that does make a lot of sense, because totally you're not comparing to when I did have or whatever. You were born into the world this way and you've just figured it out from day one. So that's that's amazing. Throughout the journey, obviously, I'm sure it wasn't always being conscious and positive along the way. But I'm sure you had struggles in there too. What are some of the, a big piece of obviously this podcast and these chats is to show the amazing stuff, but also to talk about the tools that could help people in places when they are struggling, right? And challenging. So what are some of those tools that you had to leverage when, on the not so good days, and what are some of the practices?
Yeah, I think maintaining perspective is one.
Yeah.
When I'm having a bad day or when I'm in a funk, going through a rough patch, and you got to go get out the door, and you got to go grab some groceries, and there's a couple inches of snow on the ground, and it's like, well, that just multiplied the degree of difficulty by 400% to get to the grocery store. It's like, well, if I had arms and legs, life would just be so much easier. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
It's more difficult for everybody to get from A to B when there's a couple inches of snow on the ground. So quit whining, quit crying. So, and I think that's when anybody's having a bad day, you want to blame it on something.
Yeah.
You can't just accept that I'm just not feeling it today.
Yeah.
Or I'm in a shit place right now. So you blame it on money, gender, race, your parents, whatever.
Totally.
You find all these easy scapegoats, so you don't actually have to say, okay, I got to look in the mirror and I got to figure this out myself.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to blame other people for whatever's going wrong. And, or blame it on that girlfriend that broke up with you. Well, you know what? It takes two people to make a relationship. So maybe you had part to doing that in that breakup too. So it's so easy to point the finger and lay blame. Instead, okay, what do I do, or what am I going to do to get myself out of this funk? Or just get myself into maybe I'm not going to make it all better in 20 minutes.
Totally.
But at least get myself to a point where I don't feel like it's going to be an insurmountable task to get out the door and go get those groceries or get on that flight to the presentation you got to do. And I think for me, one of my big things, just to clear my mind, when we did that too, is just put your tunes on, put my headphones on, and just try and block everything out, breathe. But even more importantly, just get a little bit of a workout in of some sort. If it's too snowy outside, go to the stairwell in my apartment and climb up and down the stairs 10, 20, 30 times. Getting on my board and boarding around, passing by the lake and reminding myself why I moved to Kelowna.
Nature.
Just that simple little gratitude practice right there. It makes a world of difference. And I think once you get the body moving and get rolling, get the oxygen pumping to the brain, it doesn't make everything go away, but you're thinking things through in a lot clearer frame of mind. So it doesn't seem so bleak or
Totally.
or whatever. You still have the challenges that you need to tackle, but going at it with a little bit more confidence.
Yes. No, I love that. You named a ton of tools in just the ways that you're doing things, right? And I think one of the first pieces is forgiveness, to give yourself that forgiveness, to be like, it's okay to have a shit day.
Yeah.
Or a crap hour or whatever, and give yourself and say, okay, sometimes you can have today, but tomorrow we're waking up strong and powerful, and you know what I mean? And then music is always a powerful one too. Nature is a free resource we have at our door that way too many people overlook. Yeah. Right. And then exercise is a massive one too.
Well, then my lock screen on my phone is, well, right now it's my youngest niece who's 17 months old. Yeah. It's cute as hell. Yeah. You just take a look at that for a split second and it puts a smile on your face, or a picture of all four of my nieces and nephews.
Grateful for what we have.
Just that little reminder. Just that one little thing to make you smile.
I love that.
And I think, to be able to have something at this is maybe not best analogy for me, but at your fingertips. Yeah. And to remember that is your thing. Yeah. To give you a little bit of light.
To focus energy on, and it's the root of a lot of this stuff is love, right? And so that's, obviously there's a lot of love there when you look at that photo, and generates that amazing feeling of what you do have within you, right? Things we're grateful for.
And let that flow through the system and give you that little jump start. That's your jumper cables, if you will.
Totally. Yeah, I've got the same. I've got a photo of my boys on my phone, and so anytime I'm feeling any which way, or sometimes you just catch it by accident too. You know what I mean? You just look and you smile, and it's amazing to have those little moments.
And also to why am I doing the things that I do? Well, I want to create a good example for my nephews and nieces. To if they want to go out there and see the world, hey, Uncle Chris did it, I can do it too.
Totally.
And I'm going out and working my ass off because I want to create opportunities for them. I don't always get to, but the opportunity this past winter, I spoke at a thing for a company it was a Canadian company, but they had their, retreats or whatever, to wine and dine their top performers in Costa Rica. So my brother and sister-in-law and a friend of hers, they came down, and just to be able to share those opportunities, like the fringe benefits of my job, as well, and be able to drag my nephew out next time I have him here visiting, and get him up on the e-foil. That's just that kind of stuff.
Totally. I love that, and I love that you just brought up Costa Rica, because it's funny that you say that. I just told you prior to the podcast when we were chatting in my office here about the Extremely Conscious retreat my partner Trev and I put on. Guess where our next one is?
Well, I'm going to guess it's somewhere in Costa Rica.
It's Costa Rica, likely in February timeframe. So we should keep in touch about that piece, because it's our version 2 from our first one that was local to here. Yep. But we have some very, very neat thoughts around it and things we want to do. So maybe we can do some collab there.
No, I'm game for anything.
It's not a terrible place to have to go.
Yeah, I know. I could think of worse places for sure.
So whether you join us on the taking part side or speaking side, or a combo of both, we should chat further about that. That's definitely that's awesome.
We can brainstorm that one a little bit more for sure.
Wicked. I love that. So I guess that leads into, because I love what you said, what your niece says, that if Uncle Chris can do it, I can. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about if I can. Yeah. Because that's what you do today, and with all your speaking engagements. I know you've done a TED Talks. I don't know the amount of that you've done, but I know that's kind of what you do. And I've watched it over the last probably 2 months, just ripping around everywhere, hopping on a plane every few days. But maybe share a little bit about what you're doing today. Yeah. So if I can, and where that came from, because I love the backstory.
Yeah. So if I can is the theme or the motto, or tagline of my presentation, and if a guy without arms and legs can go e-foiling, or snowboard, or travel the world, work on the farm, or even just live a happy, independent life, if I can do those things, every single one of us is capable of doing some awesome and amazing and exceptional things, and it has nothing to do with limbs, and it has nothing to do with physical ability.
Totally.
And everything to do with that 6 inches of space between the ears.
Yes.
I mean, what's in here as well, but usually this gets in the way, and then it blocks this.
Yeah.
And then it, just throws that wrench into the spokes and it knocks you down. It originally started as an idea for a travel show. My good buddy JR, avid traveler, he traveled quite a bit, and I looked at his travel posts. I was like, man, like he was back. Like he basically went from Thailand all the way down to Australia and New Zealand, and then all the way back up through China and Mongolia over a year and a half. And it was before Facebook, or no, it was just as Facebook, but I mean, he would send out update emails and
totally. So you're seeing it all the time.
Yeah, man, like that is what I want to do.
Living. Yeah.
But like we mentioned before, I talked myself out of that. And he was hitchhiking across Canada. I was going to Carleton University in Ottawa, and he crashed in my place for a couple of days, and we got having a couple beers, talking about travel, and we got thinking that'd be actually a neat concept for a travel show. There's all kinds of travel shows out there. Ours would be unique in that there's a guy with arms and legs going out and just doing it. Yeah. Fast forward quite a few years later, we'd done a kind of a test trip down through Brazil for about 3-4 weeks or whatever, and took some cameras and got some neat video. And yes, I was able to travel in that capacity, and then it, it's kind of springboarded into other trips that I was doing on my own. Yeah. And then turned into the speaking. But and then the idea of if I can itself was my buddy's now wife. They were dating at the time. Yeah. And we were just having drinks in the living room, trying to come up with a name for this travel show idea. Cool. And Davina goes, "What about If I Can?" So I always got to make sure I give her credit for it. She probably wants money too, but I'll just give her.
I don't want to get a nasty note if you don't give that credit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It just sort of spiraled into all these other. Cool. Doing presentations and the travel show is still something that, if the right fit comes along. Yeah. We had a lot of interest. We filmed a pilot with a guy named Justin Baldoni, who he was in the show Jane the Virgin, and he's produced a bunch of other inspirational content and feel good movies. And the interest we had, they wanted to make it more of a relationship show than a travel show. I was dating a girl from California at the time, and they were jumping on board of a redneck from southern Alberta, farmer, living in California, dating this actor. Yeah. Kind of she's vegan. I grew up around cattle. So just the
of course, the angle that they want to portray that they feel people will grab on to.
And I didn't want a show for the sake of having a show. Yeah. I don't want to be famous. Yeah. I want to make a difference. Yeah. I want to make a dent.
Totally.
Make some ripples, and hopefully they turn into waves. Yeah. And so we said thank you, but no thank you. And like I said, if the right fit comes along, great. If it doesn't, still traveling around doing a lot of that stuff anyways. Yes. And it turned into these presentations, and I wouldn't change it for a bit. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do presentations in Australia, Asia, Europe, obviously North America. Cool. And I just want to continue to grow that and just have fun doing it.
Inspire.
Yeah.
I love it. That's wicked. No, it's so cool. So is that, what's kind of along those lines, what's big picture for Chris? What's your goals? You feel like you're aligned right now with your truth, I guess, with the path that you want to walk. No,
for sure. I do. This is what I love doing. Yeah. I still carve out some time to go home and, jump on a tractor or combine on the farm. Yes. That's always been always will be a part of who I am. I've got a couple of buddies that have, farms in other places. I'll swing down through Georgia after a presentation in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and jump on a combine down there. So I have that luxury and that flexibility. But doing these presentations, being able to make an impact that way. I mean, speaking for corporations, companies, conferences, it pays well.
Yeah.
And it gives me the flexibility and the opportunity to, if a school says, hey, we'd love to have you come speak, or a fundraiser comes along and says, hey, we'd love to have you come speak at our fundraiser. And they say, well, how much does it cost? I'm like, well, nothing.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you about that, because I would think you see that in a lot of professions, right? Where you have to have a bit of a balance of the passion of what you want to be doing and then the bit to make your money, right? Of, okay, we do these corporate gigs, like even photographers, videographers, but I do the passion project on here. And because I was just thinking through as you were saying that, I was like, for me, I would think a very inspirational crowd would be like the high school age for sure. So that's awesome that you say that, because but they don't necessarily have budget for speakers and things like that.
No, and also even I've had schools say, well, no, we have the money in our budget. I don't want to, hey, you know what? Just cover my flights.
Yeah.
And then you have a little more money to bring in somebody else, or designate that extra money that you thought you were going to spend on me to, earmark it for something else.
Yeah.
And I, when I realized that doing this, you can get paid very well.
Yeah, totally.
That was in the back of my mind. That is, I wanted to get myself to where if I wanted to say, you know what, you're doing this fundraiser and you want me to come in and be your guest speaker.
Yeah.
I don't want a damn nickel from you.
Yeah. Cool.
That $2,500 that you guys have set aside to pay for a speaker.
Yeah.
That's $2,500 more to go towards the kids that you're raising money for, or
the cause, or
that playground that you're trying to build, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to, get my name out there more, so I can, make more money on the corporate end to be able to do more free gigs. And that's definitely,
I love that. That's admirable, and that's super cool. I can, it just keeps on giving.
No, for sure. And
you can choose those.
And don't get me wrong. I love speaking for the conferences. When I go in and speak for whatever company, I don't go in there, just do my presentation and head out afterwards. I'll go hang out for the whole thing, get to know everybody. And you meet some amazing, amazing people at every single one of those things.
Imagine.
And you have a blast. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's wicked. And is there, what's the long game of that? Or do you have any plans around that where there's many, will branch off into anything else? Or you think the speaking engagements is kind of, is the jam? And
it's funny because when I was coming out of high school, I took broadcasting. I wanted to be a sportscaster. I did not want to be a motivational speaker. And I had I think I had the stereotype in my mind of, it just coming across as too preachy and I don't know why I had this apprehension.
You felt you had to almost
going down that,
script it and not be genuine.
And then I was kind of like, I can use a lot of humor in these presentations. And that story of grandma, saying that my dad never finished anything he started. Yeah. That is what I lead pretty much every single presentation off with.
Break the ice, get people.
And when you get that, when you get that laugh off, out of that first joke, I can gauge my audience based on the level of laughter right there. It's like, okay, these guys are pretty tired.
Yeah, we hit half of
I'm gonna have to work a little harder for this. So you have to get a little, inject a little more humor and wake them up. Or if you get a really good, like boisterous laugh, like, all right, these guys are alive. These guys are alive, and they have a good sense of humor. Yeah. We can have fun with this. Yes. And telling stories. The one story I've been telling lately, and I wish I had. Sometimes I wish I had somebody following with a camera. There was these two girls I was visiting with at a pub in South Dakota, and the one girl said to me, she said, "So you were born like that because of a medication your mom took when she was pregnant?" I said, "No." I said, "You're thinking of thalidomide." Yeah. And I said, that's not why I was born. I said, actually, my mom and dad, they're both adopted. And I said, after I was born, they found out that they were, actually rather closely related. And they looked at me and they looked at one another, and I didn't break character at all.
Yeah.
I just kind of let them squirm for a bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it probably only lasted 3 or 4 seconds, but I'm pretty sure to those girls that
Oh, no kidding.
that level to that
Split
uncomfortable silence was probably an eternity. And I said, no, I was born like this. My parents are not adopted. They're not related.
Yeah.
It's, just one of those things that happened. And, when women say that they want a guy with a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe a little bit darker than what those two girls were looking for. But I had fun with it. Like I said, I wish I could have had that on camera because it was golden.
Well, I can tell it's important to you, and it is. It's humor is medicine.
Yeah.
It truly, truly is. And so if we can't make light of life, what can we make light of, right? It's we all take life way too seriously.
Yep.
And it's we need to be able to check one another and keep that perspective, because there's always worse situations or people that are worse off out there, in any scenario that we get in, and we can easily get in that hole of negativity when we're going through things, whether that's not as simple as, we don't downplay anything, but breakups or this and that. Right. And, it's just keeping grateful every day, right? Keeping that practice of just simply being grateful.
Yeah.
It's
and like you said earlier, you can give yourself that day. I was just tired. I gave myself that day yesterday.
Yeah.
There's really lazy people that could have looked at me yesterday and be like, "Oh wow, he did nothing." But I needed that day. I needed that day, and
that's it.
You know what? I woke up this morning nice and early like I normally do, and was stoked about coming and doing this podcast with you and doing it in person too, which was totally. I've done lots of podcasts where I sit at my laptop but no, I'll be able to just come and chill.
I love it. I get actually, it's the thing with the screen too, is like I get tired almost because you're staring at a screen, and I'm like, I never want to get tired during these. It's kind of like, to have the good conversation. So it's same. The second you even mentioned that option, I was like, well, yeah, let's go. That's beautiful. That's awesome. What about, as we're talking about kids and stuff, family in your life?
Yeah, I've got, my 2 nephews, 2 nieces. One thing that's come up a lot lately is, if you have kids, would they be born without arms and legs? No. I'm 43 now.
Yeah.
For me to have, settle down and have a family would take a huge adjustment in lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which I'm not opposed to doing it.
Yeah.
But I love doing what I'm doing. And I'm in that mindset of, I'm not going to go searching for that.
Yeah.
As I think when you get too hyper focused on something, the blinders are on and you lose the opportunities that are in the peripheral.
Totally.
So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I have 2 nephews, 2 nieces, love them to death, spoil them as much as I can.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. More than you could ask for, but
boarding around downtown Kelowna tomorrow and meet the, woman of my dreams and we decide to have a kid or 2 or whatever, then great. But I'm not, attached to one or the other.
That's good. And it's the universe aligns the way the universe does, right? And you attract generally what your heart of hearts does desire. So whichever that path is, whether it's a balance or one way or another, it'll be what it's supposed to be.
No, for sure. And that's, I think I would enjoy having that person just to take them on some of the trips, more of those trips with me than more than having the kids part of it. It's I'm not too settled on one another, like I was saying.
Kids are a journey, that's for sure, and it is nice to be the uncle because you don't have that. Yeah, but at the same time, it's both sides are special for sure, and it's 100%, there's never a ready time for any of it, for a partner, for kids, for anything, right? If you try to define that, it'll either never happen or it's just won't align the way it's supposed to, because it's
however you end up doing it, you're always going to look on the other side of the fence and like, I wanted to have kids and now I have a couple kids and, I've got some friends that are out there, going to Vegas or going to Mexico or backpacking through Europe like I always wanted to.
Yes.
It's like you're always gonna. The grass is greener on the other side of the fence, so the grass is pretty damn green right where you sit or right where you stand.
Absolutely right. We
It's
make
a
our
matter
choices.
of recognizing and acknowledging that.
Bang on. Yeah, it's one of those things. Even with us, we I think I knew I always wanted kids, but I'll tell you, for me personally, it's the greatest adventure I've ever been on, and I've traveled a lot and done a lot of cool shit as well. And there's very, very challenging times, and of course, it can be restrictive with doing things like that on a whim. But the amount that kids teach us, I think, is the important piece. And I'm sure you see that with your nieces and nephews, right? It's like everybody's always hyper focused on, we got to teach them this, teach them that. And it's like, slow down and pay attention to these kids. And they're the ones that are teaching us if you really open your eyes and listen. Yeah. Right. So it's cool.
When I had my niece, we went to the Calgary Zoo and we were waiting for the train after we were leaving. And Isabel looks at me, she would have been about 4 or 5 at the time. And Isabel goes, "Why does everybody ask you all those questions?" And I said, "Well, what questions are you talking about, Isabel?" She said, "Well, they ask, how does he get dressed? How does he eat?" And I said, "Well, it's not every day that people see a guy without arms and legs. So they have a lot of questions."
Yeah.
And I said, "So what do you tell them?" And she said, "Well, he just does." And that's,
amazing.
I'll have people ask me, "Well, how do you do certain things?" I'm like, I have to actually think about how I do certain things. I just do it.
Do them.
Yeah, I don't consciously, how do you brush your teeth? Well, you put the toothbrush on the toothpaste.
Same way you do.
Basically the same way.
No, I love that you brought that up, because even with you coming over here in person, first thing I thought of was like, amazing. I want my kids to meet you. You know what I mean? A, you're an amazing human, but second, kids need to see differences.
Yep.
Right. And whether it's in their classroom and there's kids that are different colors or from different backgrounds. Right. And I knew, my wife was like, "Wow, they might say he doesn't have any hands." And I was like, "I guarantee Noah will say that." I was like, Chris isn't offended. Chris, he's seen it all, and he loves teaching kids, and so that was totally my feel. And of course, Noah right away. Yeah. And but it's great for them to see that, right? And we're all human, and it's we don't protect our kids from different. We expose them to it, because at the root, we're all the same. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And so I loved it. It was so important for me to bring them down to meet you as well.
Well, and it's funny, kids don't always see the difference that you think that they were going to see. Mm-hmm. My cousin, her little daughter was playing with her Barbies in the bathtub, and I think Callie would have been 4 years old, and she had a Little Mermaid doll, and I guess whatever princesses, Snow White and Cinderella didn't want to play with Ariel the mermaid because she didn't have legs. Yeah. She was different. And my cousin Tara goes to Callie, "Well, cousin Chris is different." Yeah. And but you love cousin Chris and you love playing with him. She goes, "Yeah." And Tara goes, "So what's different about cousin Chris?" And she goes, "Well, he has brown hair and I have blonde hair." And the difference, the glaring difference that she thought she would bring up was not the one. And I love, and as much as of a reward as it is to speak at high schools, because that is such an impressionable age. Yeah. The elementary school kids just, getting into their minds and letting them fire away with questions is absolute gold.
Just because there's it's the innocence, right? They haven't been shaped as much as the rest of us have by society to try to think of social norms or be polite or this or that, and they just fire away from a place that is of good intention, but it's without barriers, right? And so I could see that. Must get some entertaining stuff.
It's like when your little guys were down here and we're trying to talk about what you guys did at the water park or wherever yesterday, and your one boy's like, "He didn't have any arms." It is almost kind of like, all right, you guys want to talk about this other stuff, but there's a guy here without arms and legs.
Atlas was just laser focused. Yeah. Oh, it's too good. But I love it. Kids, it's that's a good space. So have you been in a few schools at that age to chat or more?
I've done hundreds and hundreds of presentations at schools.
Yeah.
From kindergarten class to high schools to universities to all kinds of corporate conferences and stuff like that. And I mean, they're all fun and they're all a challenge for their various reasons. But the little kids, you could do literally a 90-second presentation of, hi, my name is Chris Koch. I was born missing arms and legs. I can snowboard. I can drive tractors. Yeah. I can e-foil. Yeah. And I get around on this skateboard. Yeah. And that's all you say for the presentation, and then open it up for questions. And they will ask questions for an hour. Yeah. You have to rein them in and be like, okay, well, we got to...
Yeah, we're on the timeline here. Yeah.
So, and it's awesome. It's, the one little girl, first question, she goes, how come you have 2 water bottles up there? In case I get thirsty? Nothing else you want to ask about? I had a little guy come up to me at a Tim Hortons. Yeah. In Ontario. Yeah. And with his mom. And his mom said, sorry to bother you, but my son was wondering if he could ask a question. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And the little guy goes, how's your breakfast wrap? And the mom and I look at one another like, well, that's not where I thought he was going with it.
I love it.
Yes. It's actually very good. Thank you for asking. Yeah. And his mom goes, do you have any other questions? Nope.
That was it.
Like, okay. Just want to know how my breakfast wrap is.
Yes.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's hilarious.
That's wicked. From the discussions that you do, all the chats, if you could leave people with one piece of insight, one goal, if you could choose one message that you leave them with, what would that be in one of your talks?
I mean, I guess the biggest one is, telling people, I'm way more afraid of regret than failure. Try and adopt that same mindset. Whether it be, when you thought about doing the drop zone, rappelling off the landmark building, you talked yourself out of it for whatever reason. Yeah. And then you saw that I did it, and what an idiot! Why didn't I just go for it?
Totally.
And more often than not, those things that you talk yourself out of, and e-foiling, drop zone, asking that girl for her number, or making the career change, we build it up in our minds to be this scary, scary, scary thing, and then eventually we just take that plunge, and you look back and like, that actually wasn't so bad after all. It wasn't
that hard. Totally.
You build it up, and your biggest obstacle in life isn't money, it isn't arms and legs, it isn't gender, race, parents, whatever. Yes, those things do play a part. Yeah. But your biggest obstacle is you.
Absolutely.
Your biggest obstacle is the reflection you see in the mirror when you wake up in the morning and you give yourself that pep talk. Yeah. Or talk yourself out of
Bang on.
Whatever
we all have the same choices, right? And there's many things that will happen to us in life, but it's how do we respond to them?
100%.
Whether, as you said, is it simple as somebody cutting you off in traffic, or it's a big life event. We choose how we respond to those things. And you get people that flip the bird, or you get people like me that just laugh. Now I don't even really acknowledge it, but it's it's funny. It's
well, and that too. I mean, sure, you react, or maybe you don't react. Yeah. But one person cuts you off in traffic, and you had, let's say, 50 other exchanges and experiences throughout that whole day that were anywhere from average to absolutely incredible. Yeah. But you'll come home at the end of the day, and that asshole that cut me off in traffic is the first thing you bring up at the supper table. Yeah. It's like, of all the things that happened today, that is the thing you're holding on to. Yes. And I spoke for a group in Tucson. Yeah. And we did, I took part in their team building exercises, and the guy who was kind of leading the group, he was talking about I don't know how they measured this, but it was a study that was done, and we have like 60,000 thoughts daily.
Yeah.
And 80% of those are negative. And it goes back to,
crazy.
when we were hunter-gatherers and literally everything could kill us.
Yes.
So we had to be on our guard. So
Conditioned.
to actually be inherently positive is quite the feat in itself.
Yes.
So we are hardwired to gravitate towards that negativity.
To be on the
so it does take
protect,
some work to find the positives in life. It does take some work to put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I generally wake up in a good mood. Obviously not always.
Yeah.
But generally I wake up and I'm feeling it. Sometimes it does take a little bit more, gratitude practices or get myself out of bed and get the body moving and then get to that point.
Of course.
But usually I'm good to go.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up though, the primal piece, right? We don't realize as a species how much of us is still attached to that, right? How, depending on what you believe in, of course, you could have had many lives before, but also just how those pieces carry through the generations, like even our sense of community. There's a reason we all thrive in communities, right? And we all yearn for it, and we don't like being alone, is because when we were those primal beings, those are the people that thrived, that were in communities. And and there's pros and cons to that, because when you talk about people in today's world trying to carve out their own path, right, and trying to walk a brave path, what generally happens, the same thing that happened back then, is today's not quite as extreme. Back then you were shunned out, if you didn't have the same beliefs and stuff. And today you kind of feel shunned out, because you might change your perspective, and when you start to put it out on social media, the comments slowed down, the likes slowed down,
right?
Because people aren't as courageous to talk about the things you may be talking about, right, or walk that same path. But what people need to realize is that's a positive, because those people who aren't clicking that like button, commenting, whatever, you're making them think.
Yep.
They're just doing it quietly, right? And so there's something very brave to be said on that. But I love when you kind of look backwards to look forwards, right? And we don't realize how much of those things are ingrained within us from being a human.
When somebody strikes out on a new path, for lack of a better way to put it, and you're like, well, that's not the normal. That's not the normal Mike that I've known for 5 years, and makes you a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's changed in him? Well, it doesn't really matter what's changed in him. Yeah. What matters is, how do you want to react to that? Yeah. Because for some people it opens up. Yeah. When somebody says, you know what, I'm not drinking tonight. Yeah. Oh, come on. Well, I'm not saying you don't have to drink tonight. Totally. Or you can't drink tonight. Exactly. But I'm just not doing it tonight. Yeah. And just sometimes it bothers other people. Yeah. You're like, well, maybe I could probably take a day or two off. You just nailed it. That's the reason it bothers other people, right? It's not your action. Yeah. It's they start to judge themselves. Yeah. Right. And that's the massive piece of it's great for us to learn as humans, is when people are throwing poison at us, or when they're judging us, and really they're looking in the mirror, right? And that's a reflection of something they may want to, they're actually envious, in fact, right? And it's, so any of us that are kind of walking a path that's outside the norm, if we ever get any of that feedback or that silence, that's people really generally, being a little bit, maybe envious isn't the right word, but it's making them think, it's making them look at themselves, a reflection, right? And so, it's a hard part of that journey, though, to say, no, keep walking. You're doing it right. Yeah. Just because you're not hearing the applause next to your head or getting the pat on your back as often as you'd like. Yep. You don't need it, right? And the path is within. Yep. When you got to do what you got to do, and sometimes it might seem selfish, but in the end, you have to create your own happiness and your own comfort in life. So if you're running around trying to, make sure everybody around you is comfortable with how you're living your life, you're gonna die a miserable individual.
You're gonna be pulling people through the mud that don't want to move,
and you're gonna be damn tired doing it.
Totally. And it's also that, you know, we can't be good for other individuals until we're good for ourselves. Right? And if we don't wake up in the morning, and doesn't matter if you have a family, doesn't matter if you have kids, if you are not good for you and you're not taking time for self-care and, you know, quiet time to meditate or read, or hell, whatever your downtime is, jog, you're not going to be good for anybody else. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be, you know, you can't just send your energy out constantly. You gotta send it in.
Yeah. No, it's that's very key.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. Well, again, I really appreciate you joining us
thank
today.
you very much. Appreciate it.
100%, man. Before we wrap up, I always have a couple closing questions that I ask, okay? So this is called the Conscious Trader Podcast. And so I would love if you could give me your personal definition of what a conscious creator is, and maybe how it relates to your life.
I guess as a conscious creator would, in my opinion, be a person who leads by example. It's really, really easy to talk a big talk. You can read a bunch of books and take a little bit of what Simon Sinek is saying, and take a little bit of what Eckhart Tolle is saying, and you know, what Oprah Winfrey is saying, and put together some really beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're not leading by example, people are going to sniff out the bullshit.
Yeah.
And be like, no.
Totally.
Love what you had to say, but
no. Absolutely.
See you later. So I do check in with myself and my words, and you know, I kind of, you know, COVID kind of threw a wrench into some things, and you know, one of the things that I've loved to do is challenging myself with marathons, and I haven't done a marathon since last summer. Yeah, and so I've signed up for Dublin and Philly. And
no need to do one local. We're gonna go.
Well, I've also used the marathons as an opportunity to travel. Cool. So it's a you know, there's an angle there too.
Yeah, it's wicked.
And which both of those cities I've been to work to do presentations in the past 6 months. Yeah, and I gotta get back here and board around and see 42.2 kilometers of this city.
Yes.
So yeah, just to be leading by example. Yeah. And, you know, be like, hey, this guy, he went, did the drop zone. He went and tackled the e-foil. And
yeah, he's not just spreading the message.
Yeah,
he's marching it.
Not just talking a big talk.
Yeah.
So that, I think a conscious creator is somebody who you can hear their words, and then they also go out there and walk that same path, or roll that same path.
I love it. Appreciate that. That's awesome. And then lastly, if you are to give your younger self one piece of advice at any age you choose with the knowledge that you have today, what would that be?
Well, it's, you know, the journey isn't a linear one. You know, when you were asking me about, you know, kids and whatnot. When I was in high school, I was coming out of high school. I thought I was going to be a sportscaster. You know, maybe get married shortly after college, have a couple kids, and never in a million years did I think I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, I love that I'm doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, and just to not get so hyper focused. You know, keep your eyes open to the peripheral. Yeah, and you know, you can still come back to where you thought you wanted to be, but go check this out, or go check that out. Yeah. You know, just there's a lot of really neat things we can do
when you're open to it.
Yeah. You know, can we do it? We can do it all. Yeah. Just don't have to do it all right now.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and then one thing I tell kids, especially high school kids, if you're not 100% sure, and I know you'll you'll fully agree with me on this one. If you're not 100% sure what you want to do in life, if you're not 100% sure you want to go to university and take this course and become this, get a backpack, get your passport, and go travel with no plan. And not like, well, we're going to go do 10 days in Puerto Vallarta. No, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5+ months backpacking around Australia, the States. If you're an American and you want to stick within the confines of the USA, fine, but do all 50 states.
I love it. Yeah.
My biggest, get out and go Southeast Asia. Yeah. Something that's completely different.
Out of your comfort zone.
Than
that's just
what you're used to. And you've said this already in the podcast, you learn more in that 2, 3, 4, 5+ months traveling than you will in any course, any textbook you will ever read. Yeah. And you will learn more about yourself, and you will create a lot of strength and confidence in your own abilities and what you can accomplish when you were on the other side of the world without your parents and your close circle to help bail you
guide
out
the way
in a country that you couldn't speak the language. Like that. There's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. I love that. I'm actually reading a really good book right now, a gentleman who's last on the podcast, actually. And usually you should read their book before, but I didn't. But I love his story. It's one of the things that attracted me to having him on, but his name's Jake Helbrun, and it's Off the Beaten Trail. And it's exactly his, synopsis real quick is that he actually went to university. And I think he was going into his second year. He was just like, I can't do this. This isn't for me, dreading every day. And he was, as he tells it, he was not coddled, but, he grew up pretty comfortable with a well-to-do family. And then he took off to Guatemala, where he didn't speak a lick of Spanish, on his own dime to teach English, and like the journeys that unfolded, and it changed his life, right, to do that. And that's I did similar, and I know you've traveled a bunch, and so I couldn't agree with that one more. And
my buddy JR, he was partway through university as well, and put it on the back burner and took off traveling, and
and if I look at when I was 18 when he went, and they're like, decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I remember walking into sociology class when I had to pick my major and be like, there's 300 girls in here, I'll do sociology. Like, you don't know what the hell you want to do at that age. Come on.
You know what you want to do at that age. Well,
exactly. It's not quite a long-term play, and, not with the $35,000 in debt you come out with, But so I agree with that, and I love that one. Definitely some great advice. And to finish off, where can people keep in touch with Chris? Where can they follow your journey?
Yep.
Website, socials, all of the above.
Yeah. Ifican.ca is my website, and all the links to my social media are on there. Yeah. But if you're just going on to Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, Chris Koch, last name spelled Koch. Yeah. Or If I Can. So any variations or iterations of that, you'll find me. The guy with the arms and legs in the photo. You got the right one. Yeah. Not the Chris Koch that directed a bunch of the My Name is Earl episodes. I'm not that one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Epic, brother. Well, really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Loved having you on today.
Oh, it was fun.
And it was a great chat, man.
Nice.
If today's episode resonated with you in any way, or you feel it added value to your day, please feel free to share it with friends. And of course, link and subscribe so that you can be alerted for future episodes. We sincerely appreciate you watching, and always remember to learn, laugh, and love. Until next time.